talk about love. Yeah, I got fears, but I ain't got no love. Yes, I got fears. Fear of plane crash. Fear of car crash. Oh, fear of sex. Fear of alcohol.
So what I want to do is talk a little bit about the evidence in this case that I had the opportunity to work with. And that was Cheri Jo Bates' capri pants that she had on at the time of the murder, and also the Timex watch, which was the suspects. My organization, the American Investigative Society of Cold Cases, which I started in 2013, was instrumental in this because I believe in 2015, 2016 time frame, not only did I want to help police officers and investigators by reviewing their cases with all of our experts, but I also wanted a place where labs, we would do lab work, DNA work, pro bono, at no charge for these for these police officers, because I came into that problem a lot when I worked with the DA's office and when I was a police officer and a detective, where private labs are so expensive, but they can do so much more than your state-run labs. So myself and Susanna Ryan, who I have a great deal of respect for, she's from my alma mater college at Lock Haven University, and she is a DNA certified expert, and we talked about creating our own lab to do testing, and that's what we did. So when I was working with the History Channel and Carga 7 Pictures, and Riverside allowed us access to their evidence, the capri pants and the Timex watch of the suspects, we used our lab, my lab with Susanna Ryan being the conductor and coordinator of this, in order to test this evidence with the MVAC system, which was created by Jared Bradley's father. A tremendous system, which if you guys are not familiar, I would suggest that you research it, but the gist of it is it collects DNA, specifically touch DNA, from places, and not just touch DNA. It could be old semen stains, it could be old blood, whatever it is. But what it does is it shoots like distilled water into the fabric or whatever you're trying to extract the DNA from. It pulls it back into a filter, and then that filter can be tested with all the DNA. It's a tremendous system, and we use that in this case. So during the Hunt for the Zodiac Killer show, you see myself and Susanna, and I think it's like a 45-minute or 45-second segment, and we were there for 10 hours filming. It was very surreal. But what I want to bring up about this is one of the things that they didn't show on the show, and I was totally shocked because when I discovered it, everybody was amazed that was sitting there, including myself. We're inspecting the pants. Well, I was inspecting the pants, and Susanna was helping me, and we were looking for the best place to try to get DNA from. And on the show, they specifically looked at a drop of blood. Yeah, I didn't feel that the offender cut himself. That was part of a show. But what I was really caught up in is the bottom of her capri pants. When they were laying there, you know, it's hard, but I certainly saw it. It stuck out to me as handprints, bloody handprints. And I don't think anyone had ever discovered that before. If they did, I certainly didn't hear about it. And I didn't read about it in any of the reports. But after I showed, I was like, hey, everybody come here. I had Sal come over and Susanna. I'm like, what does that look like? And they couldn't tell. And I put my hands above it. It was without a doubt to me bloody handprints. Now, what does that tell you? Does it help move the case? No, not necessarily. yes, it was something that had not been seen, I don't think. And you could clearly see it when I put my hands above it. It shows to me that that was the best place for us to look for DNA, because I felt that whoever the offender was grabbed Cheri Jo Bates by her ankles and pulled her back. To me, that leads credence, to an abduction. But maybe not. Whatever it was, he grabbed her by the ankles. She was also rolled over, and I look at that at the ankles being crossed. Now, that will also occur if somebody is shot, and sometimes they'll drop. But she wasn't shot. She was stabbed. To me, she was definitely rolled over. And you can see my initial assessment here that I wrote for the History Channel. It was not used, but some of my thought has changed in the past 5 years, but most of that is still correct. But the handprint showed me that she was definitely drugged back. And that's the best place to get touch DNA, I felt. And we did get touch DNA, and we didn't get full profiles, and we don't know how many people handled Cheri Jo Bates' pants, but we were able to get a profile. Same with the Timex watch. Now, is there enough there to do a genealogical assessment? I don't know. I'm not an expert in that area, and I think eventually, if we can't now, we will certainly come to a point in time where we can do that. But it was just an honor for me to work on that evidence, specifically since Riverside did not allow outside help. And this was all, I firmly believe this, facilitated by Sal. And that's why I won't break my promise to him about releasing these reports. But I can certainly still talk about the things that I did on the show, which included reading the reports and testing that evidence. Now, is that evidence contaminated? Again, maybe. We don't know how many people touched those without gloves on, or even if they had gloves on, we don't know. But the discovery of those handprints, I thought, was very significant at the time, and I was very excited, and so was everybody else in that room. And I'll show some pictures, that we took behind the scenes on that. The watch, I was more hopeful that we would get DNA from that, and we just, we did get some, but not enough of a profile. But I was thankful that we were able to do that too. So, hey, I just wanted to let you know the levels that we went through in order to try to assist Riverside Police in solving this case, and hopefully the stuff that we collected during that examination down the road will help in solving this case for Cheri Jo Bates. And then we have the case breakers with their claim that Gary posed as Zodiac and that he was the offender that murdered Cheri Jo Bates. And myself and Tom Colbert is his name, the head of the case breakers, he had sent me, we've had a lot of correspondence, sent me a lot of emails about comparing different pieces of evidence, and I gave him my word as well that I would not discuss results or anything from what I wanted to do. He wanted me to sign an NDA about certain things, and I wouldn't do that because, hey, my word is my bond, and I don't need to sign NDAs. So they have their suspect. Now, whether I agree or disagree doesn't really matter. I think I've done a video on what I thought about that as well. But, to me, he wants to send me and ask questions. There's nothing wrong with that. I treat him with respect regardless of what I believe and what I don't believe. And if he has evidence to prove that Gary Post was the offender who committed this crime, well, let's solve it, right? That's what we should do as investigators. So I was able to compare some things for him, and he can share that at any time that he desires. I will not do that in this video nor any subsequent videos unless, of course, I get permission from him or something else changes in, I guess, our relationship. But that's how I feel. You know, a lot of things in this case. Everybody wants to solve this Zodiac case, and for good reason. I didn't talk a lot about Zodiac in this and whether I think Zodiac did this or not. I will get into a Zodiac video at a later time, but what's important in this video is, I feel, the evidence and what I went through with the possible abduction and why I feel that that's what this was. I think I make a very compelling case for that. So hopefully, but that's just my opinion, you know. Police could certainly be correct in this. The people that believe Ross Sullivan is responsible could very well be correct about this. The case breakers and Tom Colbert and those individuals that believe Gary Post did this, hey, they're entitled to their opinion as well, and they could be correct. I just have seen no evidence really of any of that, with the exception of Riverside's BB. I mean, I see circumstantial, but certainly no direct evidence linking him to this crime. Which gets me back to the case breakers a little bit. There's nothing wrong with people putting forth their theories as long as they can back it up with evidence. That's how I feel personally. You know, just because, and this is very important to remember, just because somebody has a title, a suit, doesn't mean that they're an expert. Just because a person's an FBI agent doesn't mean they're an expert. Just because someone has Army counterintelligence in their title doesn't mean they're an expert. Or maybe they are an expert, but doesn't mean they're right. You know, I get frustrated when people put more credence to, let's say a homicide detective than let's say a narcotics detective. Both are solving crime. Just because one has a certain title and one doesn't mean that one's better than the other, right? I'm guilty of that. Let's say in the past, just because, hey, I'm a proud Marine Corps veteran, I thought, and I really thought this growing up, there was nobody that could shoot better than a Marine. Maybe because that was instilled in my head. I thought any competition between the Army or the Navy and the Marine Corps, in any competition, physical fitness, that the Marine was going to win. Well, I remember watching something sometime where an Army sniper beat the Marine Corps sniper in a competition. I was blown away by that. So you have a bias sometimes that you have to get over. Just because somebody on the case breakers is an FBI agent and they're saying, you know, that this person is the Zodiac, it doesn't mean nothing. You know, titles mean nothing. Okay? Just because you're a starting quarterback in the NFL and you've been there for 15 years does not mean that you're better than the rookie that was just drafted in the first round who hasn't gotten his shot yet. So all you amateur detectives out there, remember that. Doesn't mean you don't know more than somebody. A perfect example. I worked with a girl, Misty Johansson, from on the Hunt for the Zodiac show. She was as sharp and knew more about criminal investigations than a lot of cops that I've met and FBI agents that I worked with. But if you just put them down on paper and you see, hey, Misty, FBI agent, and the FBI agent believes this, you tend to go that way. We got to stop that way of thinking. That's not necessarily how it works. So just wanted to bring that point up about Cheri Jo Bates' murder and Gary Post.